The pages of our history books are brimming with the ingenious achievements of our ancestors, monumental marvels like the pyramids and Stonehenge that still manage to flummox us today. But do you know what else our forebears were exceptionally adept at? Perfecting the art of carnage. Yes, indeed. The intellectual prowess of bygone eras often found itself channeled into devising the most inventive methods to poke, slash, scorch, skewer, and essentially annihilate one another. So buckle up, we're about to embark on a wild ride through the annals of history, uncovering some bizarrely efficient and alarmingly creative ancient weaponry you probably haven't heard of. 1. Flying crow with magic fire. This may sound like a fantastical creature straight out of the Harry Potter novel, but I assure you it's an actual weapon. Think of it as the 14th century equivalent of a missile, crafted from bamboo frames and paper skin, shaped like birds, and carrying a surprise of explosives. With a flight range of about 1,000 feet, these burlies delivered quite a bang, literally and figuratively. The design was inspired by the Chinese firebirds that were essentially birds carrying pouches of red-hot amber intended to rain hellfire on enemy encampments. Unfortunately, the bird brains often went off course and, well, relieved themselves everywhere. This definitely gives you more perspective the next time a bird poops on your car. 2. The claw of Archimedes. This monstrous contraption, masterminded by Archimedes himself, was the ancient equivalent of a crane game, except instead of cuddly toys, it grabbed Roman warships. When these vessels came too close to the city walls of Syracuse, they found themselves hoisted partly out of the water and then unceremoniously dropped, capsizing in the process. Such was the mystery of this weapon, the Romans thought they'd ticked off the gods. 3. Whirlwind Catapult. Now, we all know about the classic catapults that would hurl huge boulders and cows, if Monty Python is to be believed, with reckless abandon. But have you heard about their smaller, sniper-like sibling, the Whirlwind Catapult? This Chinese creation was akin to a precision surgical instrument, striking high-value targets with deadly accuracy. With a crew of people pulling ropes to fine-tune the angle of launch, this was less about smashing and more about sniping. 4. Potted snakes? No, this isn't some ancient prank akin to a can of fake worms. It's an actual weapon. Imagine the horror of an unsuspecting soldier being greeted with a pot full of slithering, venomous nightmares in the midst of a battle. This was chaos and fear in a pot, especially effective in close-quarter naval battles. And remember, these weren't your friendly neighborhood garden snakes. These were the original snakes on a plane, long before Samuel L. Jackson made it cool. 5. Dead bodies. If you thought biological warfare was a modern-day horror, think again. Ancient armies made creative use of the dead by flinging disease-ridden corpses into enemy territory to spread fear and disease. A deceased warrior could serve 3 purposes: deal physical damage, induce terror, and kickstart a plague. And if they happen to rise again as the walking dead, well, now we're talking zombie warfare. 6. Nest of bees. Before you cringe and start worrying about our honey supply, no, this isn't about hurling an actual bee's nest at the enemy, although that too has been tried. The nest of bees I'm referring to is a hexagonal wooden container filled with a few dozen rocket-propelled arrows. Used during the Ming Dynasty of China, these arrows would rain death upon enemies. They could be tipped with poison, lit aflame, or packed with explosives. It's a small step from this to the modern-day missile launcher. 7. Rocket cats. This one sounds straight out of a satirical fantasy novel, but it's as real as it gets. Imagine this: a kitten turned into a rocket-propelled weapon of mass destruction. A 16th century manual on artillery and siege warfare seems to suggest just this. It describes strapping jetpacks onto cats and doves, lighting them up, and hoping that they scurry back to their home castle or city before the fuse runs out. 8. Flaming pigs, the ultimate distraction. You've heard of Trojan horses, but what about Roman pigs? It sounds like a far-fetched Barbie technique, but it's a battle tactic. When more elephants became a problem for Roman legions, they unleashed a sizzling surprise. Pigs, doused in flammable pitch or resin, were set alight and sent screaming towards the enemy's massive mammals. The sight, sound, and smell of flaming pigs caused the war elephants to panic and stampede, often trampling their own troops in fear. It wasn't PETA approved, but it sure was effective. 9. Yo-yos, not just child's play. Befalling with the bane of every 90s classroom, yo-yos had a much graver purpose. Originating from the Philippines, these toys were large, made from solid rock or dense wood, and attached to thick ropes. Warriors would climb trees and drop these lethal yo-yos from above. The result? An unsuspecting knockout. While today's versions might merely inflict mild annoyances or occasional bruises, their ancient predecessors packed a wallop you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of. So, whether you're swinging a weaponized toy or dodging barnyard animals gone ballistic, history's armory has some strange tales to tell. Who would have thought? Our ancestors certainly knew how to get creative when push came to shove, or when pigs were set to flame. Well, that's it for this episode, so until our paths cross again in another tantalizing tale of history, mystery, and a touch of comedy, stay curious.